All right, Caden, welcome back. This week, week 3, um, it was a wild ride. Some very unexpected things happened this week, especially for my team and your team. So we'll be really excited to get into that. And so we're going to break down how this week went, all the craziness that went down. Then we'll talk to you guys about our picks for the upcoming week. And finally, we'll end with our segment of the week, which this week is our Audible. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Welcome to K&A Football. All right, Caden, week 3 is in the books. How we are already 3 weeks into this thing. I know that it's only 3 weeks in, and I need to keep reminding myself of that. Like, it's only 3 weeks. It's only 3 weeks, because I'm already starting to overreact to things when I should be thinking it doesn't matter. Teams are 1-2, they're 3-0, they're 0-3, and I'm like, all of this is going to be so irrelevant in 7 weeks when these 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 win don't mean anything. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, how are we already 3 weeks into this thing? I feel like it was just the other day that we were doing our quarterbacks ranking episode in preparation for the season. And now here we are recapping week 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we are at the point of the season where these games do start to matter, and we do start to know a little bit more about these teams. It's not week 1 and week 2 where it's complete overreactions. Now, we don't know the full truth of all these teams. Some teams and some records are anomalies. There we go. Yeah, so there are some anomalies like the 49ers and we'll get to some other teams with better or worse records than they'll end up having this season. But for the most part, a lot of the teams that we're seeing what they're really made of. We're seeing, okay, this is kind of what we expected from them, and this is how they're performing so far, and this is most likely how they're going to be. And some teams, it's okay, we expected a lot from this team, and they've really struggled, and this is really what we believe they're going to be for the rest of the season. So I think weeks 3 and 4 is when you're really starting to know how these teams truly are and how they'll look for the rest of the season. So yes, definitely still a little bit overreaction season, but definitely getting more to the meat of the season and to seeing what these teams are. And it is sad that it's already 3 weeks in, but like you said, I like to try to remind myself it's only 3 weeks. We still have 15, 16 weeks of regular season football, and then we have the whole playoffs. So we still got plenty of time. And, yeah. Bless you.
Thank you. I don't know. Have I ever sneezed on air before?
I don't think that's ever happened. I think that's a first. Congratulations.
That's impressive. In 3 seasons, this is our first on air sneeze. All right. So, like you said, kind of getting into the meat of things, kind of feeling out what these teams are actually like. It's no longer, they misperformed in week 1, or they turned it around in week 2. We're kind of getting into things. So speaking of that, let's get into our first game. We have the New York Jets.
Top plays of the week.
Oh, you are so right. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about that. Okay. Top plays of the week. All right, so we got the 3 plays for you guys. I am off my rocker. All right, we got 3 plays for you guys. The best plays.
And this week's we should probably preface this week's looks a little bit different because we care about our money. And we don't want to be sued by the NFL because they have a lot more than us.
Yes. So what little money we do have for the podcast, we realized we should probably protect that. So we are going to go audioless because turns out that is copyright information. So we will not be doing the audio. So Caden and I will do a verbal recap of what's going on as well, so that way those of you listening see it. So the first play we have here is Juwan Jennings with a 32-yard, very contested catch. Debbie, let's go ahead and roll that. So Brock Purdy, play action, drops back, launches one up there to Juwan Jennings, 32 yards, and he goes up and absolutely mosses the Rams defender, crawls away in celebration. It is a fantastic catch. I mean, look at that. He goes up, absolutely mosses the man. Like that man has like a wife and kids. You cannot do him like that. Fantastic play. And honestly, Caden, did you see Juwan Jennings coming on the scene at all this week? Like, did anyone predict how well this man was going to do?
I mean, people were a little bit high on him. People were kind of saying pick this guy up in fantasy because there's no Debo, there's no McCaffrey, there's no Kittle. So this guy might see a little bit of an extended action playing wide receiver 2 behind Brandon Ayuk. Nobody expected what he did this week, which we'll obviously get to when we talk about the 49ers. Yeah, great play.
Yeah.
Great game.
All right. Yeah, game in general. Speaking of, like, our second play of the week is from the same game. So the next play we have is a little dump off to Kyren Williams, who then makes a spectacular play into the end zone. So let's go ahead and roll that. Matthew Stafford drops back, dumps it off to Kyren Williams about 10 yards out, and he does a front flip over the 49ers defender to get into the end zone. Now, like, we've seen guys do somersaults into the end zone before. We've seen guys do front flips into the end zone. But normally it's they do front flip and no one's really around. Am I cutting out here, Caden?
You were a little bit. Your picture's cutting out, but I can still hear you.
All right. Am I back now a little bit?
Oh, yeah, no, you're back. You're back. I don't know what was going on.
That was weird. So anyway, like we've seen guys like do front flips into the end zone before, but normally it's a little more of like a celebratory thing. Like there's no one really around and they do a front flip and their coaches are always like, hey, don't do that. Like that's really stupid. This one, I really don't know why he did the front flip. He could have dove and it would have been the same result and much safer.
He could have gotten so injured front flipping over a dude.
Yeah. I mean, coaches are always so mad when players front flip, but especially when you're like front flipping over someone, like that is idiotic behavior, but it makes for a great highlight play. Like that is some athleticism right there.
It was awesome. Great fun play by Kyren Williams. And I traded him away this week in one of our fantasy leagues. And so I was not happy to see this play, but it was a really cool play. I got to say that. He
should have got extra fantasy points just for the fact that it was a great play. All right. And then the last one we have here is, I mean, it's a great play, but I think the implications of it are what make it a little bit better. So this one is Saquon Barkley with a massive run here. So Debbie, you can roll that. So obviously start of the fourth quarter, Saquon Barkley takes it, finds the gap, and then takes this 65 yards to the house. Obviously, this was a really big play for a lot of reasons. First off, because it's a 65-yard run. It's a great run at that. But even more than that, it opens up the scoring in this game, as you can see if you're watching the clip. The Eagles were down 3 points at the start of the fourth quarter, and they had not scored. So this was a massive play for them to open the scoring and get things off to a better start in the fourth quarter. So great play by Saquon. And do the Saints have a thing for these massive runs? I mean, that kind of looked like the Beastquake in the
Beastquake. He broke 1 million tackles.
He did break 1 million tackles in that one. I understand that. But it was just like the fact that like all the Saints defenders were chasing him at the same time, and he just like takes it all the way in for a massive play. I understand that it's not quite the same play, but the Saints have a thing for breaking off, letting people get away with big runs like that.
I will say Saquon Barkley does look like the best running back in the NFL right now. And I don't think there's much debate with that new offensive line. There's a small little football podcast that kind of predicted that. So whoever that is, shout out to them. We'll get there.
All right. So that does it for our plates of the week. We're obviously working on the commentary. We're not professionals here, but we'll work on it since we want to keep our money safe. So, all right. So heading into the actual games here, like I alluded to earlier, we have the Jets and the Patriots. The New York Jets ended up winning this game 24-3. Aaron Rodgers threw for his first touchdown as a New York Jet in this game, which is obviously big for him. Very exciting for all the Jets fans in the world.
No, he didn't have his first touchdown as a Jet.
I think it was his first passing touchdown as a Jet.
Because he did against the Niners and the Titans. It was his first one in MetLife.
Oh, first one in MetLife. That's the one. Okay. I was like, there was something with first touchdown of some sort in MetLife. That makes sense. Okay, so first touchdown in MetLife. They like taped up the ball and gave it to him afterwards, obviously.
Yeah.
Patriots only put up 3 points in this game because their offense is absolute dookie. And their defense was able to hold the Jets to 24 points, but obviously that wasn't enough to win.
Yeah. The Patriots looked abysmal with their offensive line. They have the worst offensive line in the league. Drake May, they say they want to put him in at some point later this season, but I think it's best for him to sit because if he comes in and plays with this offensive line, he's going to die as a rookie. And it's concerning. He came in at the end of this game and he didn't look the greatest. I mean, he led them down the field, but didn't look the most amazing. Jacoby Brissett, though, he's going to die. He's not a mobile quarterback, and he's getting hit every single play. Like, oh, I feel bad for Patriots QBs. Lack of weapons, terrible offensive line. Sounds like the Panthers last season. But, yeah, Patriots, I still cannot believe that they beat the Bengals week 1. But on the other side of the football, Aaron Rodgers looked like MVP Packers Aaron Rodgers in this game. He looked like he had turned back the clock. He was able to move. He was able to scramble around and make plays with his legs, which we haven't seen from Aaron Rodgers in years. It was a very cool thing to see Aaron Rodgers playing how he did. He was getting everybody involved. But one of the interesting things for me is the Jets running game. They obviously have Breece Hall, who's a stud. And then they have the youngest player in I think NFL history scored a touchdown a couple of weeks ago, but his name's Braylon Allen. He's a rookie running back out of Wisconsin. He is a dog, and he's the backup running back right now. And so he's gaining more and more carries, gaining more and more momentum to getting a lot of playing time. And the Jets have, once he develops into like a more rotational, like full-time rotation guy, the Jets running game is going to be the best 1-2 combo in the NFL. And I truly believe that. Braylon Allen looks like a dog. And in our 32-man fantasy football league that we talked about over the offseason, Debbie, football guru Debbie, decided to draft Breece Hall. And then I don't know if Debbie knew what Debbie was doing, but Debbie then drafted Braylon Allen, not really thinking. And Debbie wasn't aware that they were on the same team. Don't ask me how Debbie can't just look and see New York Jets, but Debbie wasn't aware. And turns out that was an amazing move by Debbie because they are both very, very good running backs. I mean, now Debbie made a very stupid move and traded me Braylon Allen, but up until that point, great move by Debbie. And Braylon Allen looks like a stud. That's really all I was getting to.
Okay, pause real quick. Did you trade Kyron Williams to Debbie?
No.
Okay. You scared me there for a second. And also, side point, did you exploit Debbie for the fact that Debbie does not know too much about football and you do?
No, I mentioned Debbie was sad that he had Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. And I said, I will take Braylon Allen off your hands if you don't want to have two Jets running backs.
What a great favor you're doing for him.
And he looked and he looked at my bench and saw I have Kareem Hunt, who managed to sign with the Chiefs, and he goes, I will give you Braylon Allen for Kareem Hunt. And I said, and I had to act like I was thinking about it, and I was like,
who is the commissioner of this league? We need to talk to him about the collusion. Oh wait, it's you. All right. Anyway, all right. Next game, we need to move on past this one. Congratulations, Jets. Sorry, Patriots. You've capped your wins for the year. All right. Now we have the Giants and Browns. Look, I don't want to give this game too much time because I am still very, very salty about it. The Browns suck. Our offensive line couldn't stop a nosebleed if we tried. Our play calling is absolutely awful. Kevin Stefanski needs to stop trying to double, triple, quadruple, reverse psychology the other team. He just needs to start playing smart football instead of, oh, we need 5 yards to keep the game going on 2 plays. How about we throw it 25 yards down the field? How about we not do that, okay? This game started off really great for the Browns. We forced a fumble on the opening kickoff and then scored before 10 seconds were off the clock. It was the second fastest score in NFL history. And I was like, oh my gosh, are we about to drop 80 on the Giants' head?
You texted and said the Browns are about to win 80-0.
I did text that because I was like, we put up 7 points before there were 10 seconds off the clock. Are you kidding me? We're going to demolish this game. And then the Giants go on offense, and then it was really just downhill from there. Our defense could not do anything, really. We had one interception that was good, but then it was called back for a roughing the passer call that was one of the lightest roughing the passer calls I've ever seen in my life. And then there was nothing we could do after that. The Browns offensive line couldn't do anything. Our play calling couldn't do anything. We were absolute dog water this entire game. I can't believe we lost to the New York Giants.
I projected the Giants at 0-17, so I'm a little bit upset that prediction didn't come true. Because at the end of the year, do you know how good that would have looked if we had a reel that had me in the beginning of the year saying, "Oh, Giants 0-17," and then they went 0-17. Oh, but thank you, Browns, for screwing that up for us. But I think there was 3 storylines of this game. One, like you said, the offensive line for Cleveland was terrible. Like, yes, Deshaun's not a good quarterback, but he had no time to do anything. The Giants, they have a good D-line, but they were all over Deshaun. Second, Deshaun holds onto the ball way too long. The times when the offensive line did hold up, he was holding onto the ball way too long, trying to do something when he could have thrown the ball away, or he could have taken a check down, or he could have taken something instead of looking for a bomb that he ends up getting sacked for. And third is Malik Neighbors is a dog. And Malik Neighbors, I have to admit that I was wrong. I was not very high on Malik Neighbors. I thought he was going to be a little bit of a, not a bust, but he wasn't going to have a great season because Daniel Jones is his quarterback. Well, it turns out that doesn't matter. Daniel Jones is still trying to overthrow him on touchdowns and on everything, but Malik Neighbors is too good. And he's like, I don't care. Like, I'm a magnet. I'm going to grab the ball, even though it's 10 feet over my head. He's amazing. And he, in a couple of years, could be one of the top receivers in the NFL. He is carrying this offense. And I can't believe the Giants got to win. But Malik Neighbors is the real deal.
He is the real deal, and the Giants need to make sure they don't squander that opportunity the way they did with Saquon, because we all said the same thing about Saquon when he came out of college, that he is an absolute stud. He is going to carry this offense, and he did for years. And then they didn't do anything with him. He left, and he was a stud somewhere else. They need to make sure that they build around him and keep him for a couple of years, like the Bengals have done with Jamar Chase. All right, The next game that we have here is the Panthers and Raiders. Man, oh man, was this a game, Caden? Talk about this for a second.
I still am kind of speechless after what I watched on Sunday. Obviously, Bryce Young last season, terrible. Bryce Young in the first 2 games of this season, some of the worst quarterback play in NFL history. That there's no around that. That offense the first 2 weeks could barely get a first down, couldn't barely get 10 yards of offense before punting or turning the ball over. Our first drive, obviously they bench him, bring in Andy Dalton this week. Our first drive with Andy Dalton, first down. Held the third down, first down. Held the third down, first down. He was throwing it to Adam Thielen, who hasn't been able to do anything all year. He was throwing it to Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson had a career high in receiving yards this game, which is insane. Chuba Hubbard had 150 yards and a touchdown. That's a Christian McCaffrey stat line back when he was on the Panthers. Panthers dominated, scored a first drive touchdown, got a 3-and-out, scored another touchdown. It was, the final score was 36-22, but it was so much more of a blowout than that. The Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter when the Panthers were done and the Panthers were playing prevent defense. The Panthers were up 33-7 when this game was in the midway through the fourth quarter. Like, I was at a loss for words. The defense played good. The offense played phenomenal against a good Raiders defense. The Raiders aren't a great team, but they have a very solid defense. Mm-hmm. It's insanely hard for me not to be like the most optimistic ever, because watching that game is like something I've never seen in years. I have not seen a Panthers game look like that in years. Like, honestly, like last season, our 2 wins came off of last plays of the game, and it was terrible games. The year before that, it was the Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold Panthers that were struggling to win games, and if they win by like 1. Panthers haven't dominated a game start to finish like that since Cam Newton. Like, that was insane to watch. And they're obviously starting Andy Dalton again on Sunday. And I'm not going to be like, I'm not an idiot. I know we're not going to the Super Bowl, contrary to what I was screaming at my house watching the TV. But I'm excited to watch Panthers games again, which is a week ago. I couldn't tell you that. Like, that wouldn't have been the case. I think one of the biggest questions that comes out of this game now is Bryce Young and what do the Panthers do with Bryce Young. I think that they still will keep him. I think that they should, because you spent way too much on him to go and ship him for a 4th round pick. But his trade value right now just went so much farther down, because the talk throughout all last week was Bryce Young is not the problem. Bryce Young has been giving such a bad situation. He has the worst O-line. He has the worst receivers, all this stuff. But then they bring in Andy Dalton with the exact same receivers and the exact same O-line. And it was not night and day difference. It was like pitch black and like burning sun difference. Like, it was insane, the difference just the quarterback switch made. And that really hurt Bryce Young's value, let me just say. Like, I think they keep him. I think they should keep him, but
they have to keep him now because he has no value at this point.
Well, that's true. You're getting like a bag of potato chips, and
if that,
you're getting those off-brand Doritos.
Yeah. And then the last storyline that we'll cover for this game is the Raiders they've talked a little bit about a quarterback switch, which I don't personally see at all. Like, I don't see why you do that. Gardner Minshew has been playing well, in my opinion. I think that you stick with him. I think he needs the confidence boost. You end up with a loss like this, but things like that happen. I say the Raiders stick with Gardner Minshew. I don't see a reason to switch at this point.
Yeah, they came out and said that they're sticking with Gardner Minshew this week for now, which is, I think, terrible to say. Like, if you're going to stick with your quarterback, you saying we're riding with our quarterback. You can change that the next week.
He needs that.
Like, that's what they do in the NFL. But you need to have confidence in your starter, and you need to say he is our QB. We're not changing. If you say he's our quarterback right now, like for right now, we're keeping him here. That's not what you want. That's not what you want to hear as a quarterback. That's going to hurt your confidence. And if you throw one interception, they're bringing in this backup. And I think that's not what you want to say. So I do think in a couple of weeks we might see Aiden O'Connell, definitely.
Yeah. All right. The next game we have, because we got to keep things moving, is the Packers and Titans. We don't have to spend too much time on this because it was an absolute blowout. So Packers win 30-14. Malik Willis performed well. Like, I don't understand.
It was all right.
Okay. Yes, he was okay. But the fact that you go with the Malik Willis that we saw in the past to the Malik Willis we have now, it is just such, like we talked about this last week, it is such a difference maker what a system and a good team, just a good coaching staff can do for a quarterback. The fact that he's not making the mistakes that we saw him make in his first years in the NFL compared to now.
I definitely think we still see some of those. Like, he threw a very costly pick six in this game, a very bad pick six. He also has so many fumbles.
Costly is a big word.
At the time, it was costly. At the time, I think it was like 7.
Either way, he is doing enough to keep the Packers afloat until Jordan Love can come back, and that is all he needs to do, and that is enough.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Will Levis. I am so sorry.
I'm talking about Malik Willis, man.
Will
Levis played awful.
Okay, I was very confused by what you were saying. Okay, yes. I am so sorry. If you're listening, you probably think I am an idiot. Yes. Malik Willis did. Like, coaching is insane. Malik Willis played very well. Yes, I am. Yes, I 1000% agree with all you said. Okay. Whew. No.
I was gonna say I don't even necessarily remember a pick six. I remember.
Will Levis threw a pick six. Will Levis threw a terrible pick six.
It doesn't help that they have the same last name first name combo. That's not really on you. That's on them for Malik Willis and Will Levis to have names like that. That's not really on you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this after the episode, see if you had said Malik Willis or Will Levis. But okay,
I definitely said Malik Willis. Yeah, okay. He played well. He's doing enough to keep the Packers afloat until Jordan Love can come back, and that's really what he needs to do, and that's going to secure him a bag in a year or two as like a consistent backup. Like, that's really going to perform well for him. And then, like you were trying to say without using his name, Will Levis played absolute trash again. The Titans might be the worst team in the NFL, given the fact that the Giants and Panthers both won this week. So congratulations to him. I should have put it in for one of our top plays of the week, but his diving attempt for a first down from 5 yards away from the first down marker was
it wasn't quite worthy of enough to put as a special. Yeah. What did Will Levis do?
I wish we could have done a special with Will Levis.
Might happen next week, though. I mean, it was definitely borderline, but he is one of a kind.
He is. All right, let's move to the next game here. We got the Bears and Colts. The Bears lose another one, 16-21 to the Colts. What's his name? Rome Odunze? Is that his name?
Yeah, Rome Odunze.
Yeah, he played very, very well. Like, this is the connection that Bears fans have been looking for in a quarterback receiver duo for years now. And then on the other side of the ball, Anthony Richardson has been found out. His secret is out. Everyone knows that if you stop Anthony Richardson from running all over you, his only weapon is the deep ball. Obviously, they still won, but he had a terrible game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talked about that last week on the show. The reason they looked so bad week 2 against the Packers, I mean, yes, the Packers have a pretty good defense, but if he wasn't running if he's going to try to force himself to pass, that's going to cause a lot of problems. He went 10 for 20 passing in this game, 50% completion. And I truly think that's like his ceiling right now. At this point in his career, that's the best we're going to see from him passing the football. And like, honestly, watching all of these games during the 1:00 slate, terrible. Oh my goodness. These were some of the worst football games I have seen. And this game was one of the worst because, like, yes, it was a close game, but it was, all right, let's see which quarterback is going to look less worse. Like, Anthony Richardson got down to the red zone, and yes, I know the ball was tipped, but it was one of the worst decisions. I don't know if you've seen it. He was running left, and he lofted the ball into, like, triple coverage that was tipped. So it would have, like, it looked a lot worse than it was, but even if it wasn't tipped, that it would have been intercepted by any of those 3 guys standing right there. Like, it was one of the worst decisions ever. And then a couple plays later, Caleb Williams decides, I don't really want it, and he gives it right back. Like, people have been freaking out because Caleb Williams had 360 passing yards in this game. Yes. Yeah, 363 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Yes, that's very good. It's something to be excited about. But the eye test, I was not impressed with Caleb Williams. Like, you can look at box scores all you want. There's a difference between looking at a box score and watching the team play. He can have all the yards and all those stats. They scored 16 points and lost 21-16 when Anthony Richardson played as bad as he did. They had that many opportunities on offense. Like, I'm not impressed with Caleb Williams right now. I am impressed with Jaden Daniels, who we'll get to, we'll get to. It's looking like he should have gone number 1 at this point of the season, at this point in their careers. Granted, it is early, but Caleb Williams and the Bears don't look good. Their running game is non-existent. Their offensive line sucks, but they have a great receiving core and an elite defense. And Caleb Williams is not playing good football.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to our next game here, I want to tell you guys about our friends at K&F Construction. K&F Construction has been serving the Northeast Ohio community for over 16 years, specializing in composite decks. K&F Construction takes the time and effort to provide the service and product you deserve for your home. You can call K&F Construction today at 330-575-2465 for a free estimate. Again, that's 330-575-2465. You can also visit kfdex.com, which is linked in the description. K&F Construction, let us build your dream backyard. All right, the next game that we have here is the Texans and Vikings. The Vikings absolutely dismantled the Texans 34-7. Sam Darnold had a fantastic game. Everyone was counting Sam Darnold pretty much out before this season, and he is proving the doubters so wrong. The Texans obviously didn't do too much. They only put up 7 points, so that is a little disappointing, but I'm not overly concerned with them. You have a bad game every now and again. That's how it goes. I don't think this is going to be a reoccurring theme for the Texans this year.
Yeah, the Vikings is the main storyline out of this game, obviously. First of all, Sam Darnold is looking, I know it's early, but he has resurrected his career. He looks like an MVP candidate, which is insane. And the Vikings defense with Brian Flores is insane. insane. After the game last week, obviously dismantling the 49ers. I mean, it was a good game, but Brock Purdy went up to Brian Flores after the game, like where they go on midfield and shake hands, and he said, "Hey, your scheme is crazy, like something Brock Purdy hasn't seen before. Like that was a really hard defense to play against." And we obviously saw this week playing the Texans, who great young quarterback, great receiving core. Two of them very young, great offensive line, great head coach. Holding that team to 7 points. I mean, that defense is phenomenal. Their scheme is so good. And if Sam Darnold can play the way he's playing with the way that their defense is right now, this team has no limit. Like this is a team that everybody wrote off at the beginning of the year. Yes, they played the Giants week 1. They're supposed to win that game, and they did. But then their next 2 games are the 49ers and then the Texans. Yeah, you're going to lose those 2 games, obviously. No, they won both of those games pretty convincingly too. And now they're going to Lambeau next week. Playing a division. If they go to Lambeau next week and beat the Packers and go to 4-0, I mean, people already do have to start taking this team seriously, but especially if they go win next week. I mean, I am very impressed with the Vikings, and I'll be the first to admit I was very wrong about them. And Sam Darnold is legit, and that defense is one of the toughest in the NFL to go against.
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings this year are looking better than they did last year with Kirk. So, yeah. I mean, just keep that in mind. They did not play as well last year as they have this year. All right, next game that we have here is the Eagles and Saints. Obviously, we saw a highlight from Saquon Barkley. The Saints have been on an insanity run the first 2 weeks. Obviously, they beat the Panthers pretty convincingly, but we kind of all expected that. But then they beat the Texans last week, and we were like, whoa, we weren't expecting that. And then
Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Cowboys, wrong Texas team. They beat the Cowboys last week pretty convincingly. Then this week, we're like, okay, how are they going to fare against the Eagles? The answer was really well, actually. The answer was that they were actually fared really, really well. They're doing the Steelers strategy, which is if you can't go crazy on offense, then you're just going to rely on your insane defense to hold them to no points, and you're also going to score no points, but just more than them. So going into the fourth quarter, like we saw in our highlight clip, the Saints were up 3-0. Then Saquon Barkley opens the scoring. But really great performance from the Saints here. I am excited to see them play this year.
Right. Like you said, 3-0 entering the fourth quarter against 2 teams that have been dominant on offense at this point in the season. Like we were expecting a shootout in this game, and it was 15-12 final score, 3-0 entering the fourth quarter. And it was really 2 broken plays by the Eagles that won them this game. Obviously, Saquon's 65-yard touchdown run. And then on the Eagles' last drive, Dallas Goedert got loose for like a 64-yard reception. If those 2 plays don't happen, the Eagles might not even go ahead and score. I mean, the Saints played so good in this game for 3/4 of this game. It was really a good game by the Saints overall. They just 2 broken plays that really hurt them in this game. Their offense really struggled to get anything going. The Eagles' D-line was dominant, stopping the run. And the Eagles head coach, Nick Sirianni, very stupid. I'm sorry. Like he made a really dumb call we talked about last week in the week 2 Monday Night Football game against Atlanta. And here he had 2 times when it was 3-0, he got in the red zone twice, or at least field goal range twice, chance to tie the game. And then after it was tied, it would have been take the league. It would have been 6-0. He went for it both times on 4th down and failed to get it both times. One of them was a failed tush push, which we said was back last week. Turns out might not be. And the other one was just a dumb play. It was like a fake tush push that they threw and they didn't get it. He's trying to outsmart everybody in the NFL, and it's not working. But they won, so he's going to get credit, and it's whatever. But he is a little bit concerning, and I'm a little bit concerned for the Eagles in terms of him being their head coach.
Yeah. Nick Sirianni and Kevin Stefanski need to both go back to elementary football coaching 101 so they can learn that when you have the chance for points, you take the points. All right, next game that we have is the Chargers and Steelers. Obviously, the Chargers didn't play overly well this game. They only put up 10 points. The Steelers actually put up 20 points, which is, a applause for the Steelers that they actually put up points. Their defense didn't absolutely carry them this entire game. So, the Steelers defense, Justin Fields, and the power of friendship is single-handedly bringing them to an undefeated season so far. Did not see this coming. I thought that week 1 was a fluke, but here they are, 3-0. Caden, do you think this continues, and what are the Chargers going to do about Herbert?
Yeah, I do think that this continues. I think Justin Fields is playing how me and you kind of were talking about last year. He wasn't the problem in Chicago, and we're seeing this in Pittsburgh now. He's playing, for the most part, turnover-free football. He's doing what he has to do, and their defense is carrying. Their defense, he's doing what he has to do, letting the run game play, letting his own run game, and making throws when he has to, and then relying on the defense. And they're 3-0, and they're looking very good. I do think this continues. And in terms of what the Chargers do with Herbert, as we know, was a little bit injured going into this game. He played through a high ankle sprain and then got re-injured in this game. Didn't finish the game, I believe. Yeah, he did not finish the game. I'm a little bit concerned for Herbert because we've seen a lot of injuries at this point in his career. We've seen an injured rib. We saw an injured plantar fascia, I believe is what it was called, this offseason. We spent a whole 10 minutes trying to figure out what that was called during the offseason. Great times when there was not a lot of football going on. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career, and here's another one. And I think the Chargers overall might still be okay because their team is relying on the run game and relying on the defense, kind of taking the Chargers' strategy. But it is a little bit concerning because Herbert is still able to make those throws when he has to. A backup quarterback, Taylor Heinicke, is not Justin Herbert. I know you are not a Justin Herbert fan, but Taylor Heinicke is still not Justin Herbert, and this will affect the Chargers. Yeah,
for sure. And obviously, it's going to affect the Chargers. They have to figure out how they want to do this. And with a Harbaugh system going on, you don't necessarily need a fantastic quarterback, but you do need someone that can make the throws when it needs to happen. The last thing I'll say about this game is with the way that Justin Fields is performing, if he continues this way, I really don't think we see Russell Wilson this season. I know that they said that, we'll start with Fields and we'll see, because Wilson is hurt, we'll play things safe. But he's playing well. Do you really want to switch things up when he's finding his groove? He's figuring out that it works. You're winning games. You're 3-0. Are you really going to switch it up just because you think you have someone better in Russell Wilson that didn't play well in Denver? I think they're going to stick with Justin Fields. So as long as he keeps his confidence up and keeps playing turnover-free football, I think we see him the rest of the year.
I agree. I think there's a team down in Miami that could use a quarterback potentially.
We'll talk about that in a second. All right, the next game we have here is the Broncos and Buccaneers. This is another game that I did not expect. The Broncos blew the Buccaneers out of the water, 26-7. Buccaneers could not get anything done, and I really don't know how the Broncos won this game.
I was in shock watching this game, just like a lot of these games, honestly, on Sunday. Bo Nix looked really good in this game. He was making a lot of plays with his legs. He was making a lot of plays through the air. He threw for 216 yards, no passing touchdowns, but he ran one in. Their running game played solid. Their defense was so good. The Buccaneers had looked like one of the most solid teams in the NFL the first 2 weeks. Baker Mayfield, people were saying it's a comeback, not a comeback player of the year because he was good last season, but they were saying he's looking like an MVP. He was neutralized this game. I mean, it was a phenomenal performance by the Broncos. One of the biggest things that really people aren't talking about in this game, Patrick Surtain, who he's obviously good, and I know he's been good. I haven't always been the highest on Surtain, but now I truly believe, I can confidently say I think he is one of the top one, maybe top one or two corners in the NFL. He guarded Mike Evans in this game. Mike Evans did nothing. I mean, every week, whoever is playing the Broncos, their number one receiver is not going to have a good game. It's just the team might dominate because the Broncos aren't a good team, but that number one receiver is not going to have a good game because Patrick Surtain is a dog. And fortunately for the Broncos, the rest of the defense also played like dogs this game. So did the offense. And if Bo Nix can continue to play like this and a defense can continue to play like this, they will be a very scary team. Unfortunately, I don't believe that that's going to happen. I think this was really just a thing of the Bucs overlooking the Broncos and being like, okay, this is the Broncos. We're not too worried, which is crazy because you're in the NFL. You shouldn't be overlooking anybody. But I don't think it. I'm definitely not overreacting about this game. I think the Broncos are still not a good team. I think the Buccaneers are still a good team. I'm not putting too much worry into this game, but definitely something to pay attention to. Definitely, and props to Bo Nix for his first win.
For sure. I mean, that's why they call it any given Sunday. Anything can happen. All right, so the next game we have here is the Dolphins and Seahawks. The Seahawks won 24-3, but that's not really the big storyline. The big storyline is, obviously, last week we talked about the fact that Tua got another concussion, so he's going to be taking some time off to figure out his head, recover from the concussion, and then figure out how he wants to proceed with his future and make sure that he does that very safely. So that means that they start Skylar Thompson. All right, Skylar Thompson time. All right, next man up. Let's see what we can do. Skylar Thompson gets hurt in this game. He gets hit in the chest, I think. So he leaves the game with a chest injury. And then I don't even know who they brought in for QB3. But they had QB3 in there, and you end up putting up 3 points. Tyreek Hill has an awful game because no one can get him the ball, and so fantasy managers everywhere, me, should have really should have thought about that and not started Tyreek Hill this week, but I did and I lost, so that's really on me. But I mean, we'll talk about the Dolphins a little bit later. Stay tuned for some takes on that. But Caden, what do you take from this game?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it. Their offense is nothing right now without Tua. They have amazing playmakers, but they can't get them the ball. The Seahawks are 3-0, which is insane. Sneakily. Nice word. I think you've made fun of me for saying sneakily before. But the Seahawks are not a good team, in my opinion. They have had one of the lightest schedules to start a season. They got New England, and they got Miami without Tua, and they got Denver week 1.
Oh, that's right.
So I would like to see Seattle play a good team for a change. And this is one of those teams that I feel like we do see a lot of what teams are made of, but I don't think we have seen Seattle yet. If Thompson is, thank you, Debbie. Debbie just said if Skylar Thompson is unable to play, Tim Boyle is the next man up. But they have recently signed Tyler Huntley, Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley.
Oh, yeah. Pro Bowl quarterback. Those who know. All right, let's move on to our next game here. We have the Ravens and Cowboys. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch too much of this game except for the end. So, okay, now I'll let you talk about this.
The Ravens dominated this game. First quarter, smoked them. Second quarter, smoked them. Third quarter, smoked them. Fourth quarter, Cowboys all of a sudden came back and they lost by 3 points. So the Ravens are a very interesting team because they're amazing for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter they just forget that they know how to play football. That happened last week with the Raiders. That's how they lost to the Raiders. All of a sudden the Raiders were just winning at the end of the game, and everyone's like, wait a second, they just won. And that almost happened with this game too. Like, I don't know what goes on, but literally like the fourth quarter clicks, and then all of a sudden the Ravens are just like not a team. And it's a little bit concerning because if you're in a close game in the fourth quarter, you might get blown out of the water. Fortunately for the Ravens, they weren't because they were so good for the first 3 quarters. What concerns me more is Dallas. Their defense does not look good. The last 2 seasons, Dallas's defense has really been dominant and has really been like, oh, this is a scary defense and we don't want to play this defense. Right now, it's like, we'll play the Cowboys. Like, you can run the ball on them for many, many yards. You can't pass on them as much because they have a solid pass rush, but you can run all over the Cowboys and just not have any fear. I mean, it's a little bit concerning for the Cowboys. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Ravens play great football for the majority of the time, and then like they they charger it. They charger these games, or at least they do their best to. And then, like you said, the Cowboys defense, they started off the year playing the Browns, and everyone was like, well, okay, their defense is playing well. This is what we expected from the Cowboys defense. This is what we've seen the last kind of 2 seasons from them. And then here we are with last week. They did not perform very well. This week, they didn't perform well at all. Last week, Micah Parsons was like, yeah, the effort just wasn't there. We didn't have the heart, man. I don't really know. And then this week, we get the Ravens dropping 28 points on you. And I mean, I get it. The Ravens run game is strong. Derrick Henry is not a force to be reckoned with. But still, when you do this 2 weeks in a row, there are questions that need to be asked. So how do the Cowboys move forward is a really big question. So the next game that we have here is the 49ers and Rams. Like we talked about just a little bit ago, this was a big game that had some big plays. It was an exciting game, but the big storyline obviously being that there were no receivers on either end of the field. The Rams didn't have Puka. They didn't have Kupp. They're both out right now. The 49ers didn't have Kittle. They didn't have McCaffrey. They didn't have Debo. And so it's, all right, is it Ayuk's time to step up? How much is Kyren Williams going to do? Turns out, no, Ayuk is not going to step up. Actually, Juwan Jennings is going to step up. So glad that we got to deal with months and months of Brandon Ayuk crying about being worth all this money and then doing absolutely nothing for the first 3 weeks. Obviously, like I didn't quite mention, but the Rams end up winning this game 27-24, which doesn't normally happen. Normally, the things that are guaranteed in life are death taxes, and the 49ers will beat the Rams, but not this time.
Yeah. It was a comeback, too. I mean, and of all games for the Rams to go ahead and beat the 49ers, this was a very surprising game because of how many injuries the Rams had. Like you said, no Puka, no Cooper Kupp, and no like entire offensive line. And yes, the 49ers had injuries of their own, but they still have many superstars, and you thought that was going to be enough on top of the 49ers always beat the Rams, like you were saying. Juwan Jennings is, at least on Sunday, was phenomenal. He had 11 receptions for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is amazing. It's coming in being the 49ers' third receiver, being thrust into that number 2 role, and like you said, completely overshadowing Brandon Ayuk, who has done nothing these first 3 weeks of the season. I truly believe that it is because of the lack of just any football practice and any training camp and anything all offseason. We saw a lot of struggles with a lot of guys like that. We haven't seen much from CeeDee Lamb so far this year. Up until Monday night, we hadn't seen much from Jamar Chase, and we haven't seen anything from Brandon Ayuk. He has looked terrible. He has many drops. He isn't getting a lot of catches. He's getting targets, but he's not getting any catches. He's having drops. And Juwan Jennings, someone who has been there, completely overshadowed him. And if this is going to continue, then the 49ers are going to really regret their decision to keep Ayuk, and they're going to be like, well, we should just let him go and had Juwan Jennings be that dude because he's a dog. And I was very impressed with Juwan Jennings in this game. But I'm a little bit concerned now because they are 1-2. Yes, they have a lot of injuries, but every team has injuries. Every team has to deal with injuries. But for some reason, when they have one guy injured, they fall apart. We saw it last season when Debo and I believe it was Debo and Trent Williams last year were hurt for a 3-game stretch. They missed the Vikings game, they missed the Browns game, and they missed one more game after that. I can't remember which one it was, but those 3 guys were injured. Those 2 guys were injured those 3 weeks, and they went 0-3 in that stretch. And they came back and they were business as usual. The 49ers dominating. That's kind of what we're seeing right now. They have no McCaffrey. They have no Debo. They had no Kittle, and Trent Williams got hurt in this game too. Like when they don't have one of those guys, they fall apart. Like they still scored 24 points, but they just can't finish the deal and win. Like they can't get the W in the win column without all of their guys present, which makes no sense to me because they still have so many superstars on that team. They have a superstar head coach. It's really concerning. I don't know if that's a Brock Purdy thing. I'm not just being a hater. That's just a genuine question that I have because we haven't seen him go ahead and win when he's missing one or more of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. Question from Harold Mansfield. Do the Browns have a legitimate excuse in their O-line, or is Deshaun Watson really that bad? What was the last part there? Answer, great K&A take on Deshaun being worse than the O-line deficiencies. I mean, yes, the O-line was bad. The Browns O-line played very, very bad, and there's really no way around that. He had no time whatsoever. But yeah, Deshaun Watson, like we said, he didn't play well. He held onto the ball for too long. If you're going to be a quarterback that's worth $230 million, you need to make do with what you have, and that means using your legs. We know you're a mobile quarterback, and he just didn't do any of that. He didn't make fantastic throws. If anything, he was putting up really, really contested throws, and Amari Cooper was able to come down with those, but they weren't particularly fantastic throws that wowed you. So Deshaun Watson is the problem, but the O-line didn't do anything to help.
Yeah.
All right. The next game we have is the Lions and Cardinals. The Lions ended up winning this one 20-13. Kyler Murray had another decent game. Threw the ball around the yard. He was the leading rusher for the Cardinals. And then, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr., as we all expected, was the leading receiver for the Cardinals. Lions played well enough to win. It wasn't a really wowing performance, but a win's a win.
Yeah, it was really just like not a lull of a game. Like the Lions had a very good play. They had a very trick play, a little throw to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who then pitched it back to Jahmyr Gibbs, who ran in for the touchdown. Very cool play. The Lions kind of they looked like they still don't look like the last year Lions. Like there's something missing with their offense. I don't know what is not clicking for them. Like they can run the ball with ease. They are running it perfectly fine, but like their passing game just doesn't look the same. Like they got the win, but it's just not the Lions offense that we saw the last two seasons. Kind of. I can't really put my finger on it.
Yeah, I had said this at the beginning of the year that this is what I didn't want to see, and I think this is kind of like the Baker Mayfield complex, where it's when you don't have expectations. The Lions played well. It's like they knew that no one was expecting them to succeed. It's the Lions. Come on, guys. And so they came in with a chip on their shoulder, and they're like, all right, fine. We're going to get in the dirt. We're going to play football, man. And then they just did that, and it was fun, and it was exciting, and Dan Campbell was willing to take these crazy risks on a 4th and a mile just because why not? I feel like it. Now it's kind of like they have these expectations, and so they feel like they need to perform well. So, yeah, they're running well, but it doesn't really have that flair that the last two seasons have had. And I think it's because they know they have expectations and it's difficult to perform with those.
Yeah. And the Cardinals, on the other hand, here we go. Here, I think it's Debbie. Debbie pulling up the trick play. Yeah. So really fast little catch and shovel back to Jahmyr Gibbs. Really, I mean, that was obviously planned. It was a very well-designed and fun play.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
But yeah, with the Cardinals, on the other hand, they didn't, we expected this to be a very fun, high-scoring game. Cardinals kind of disappointed. Marvin Harrison Jr. just isn't getting a lot of targets. Like, he is so good. I know he's a rookie, but you should be feeding him, especially their tight end, Trey McBride. Thank you. I couldn't think about it. Trey McBride got injured in this game. He left with a concussion, and so that's one of your massive biggest targets on the field leaving, and that should be more targets funneled to Marvin Harrison Jr. I know he's a rookie, but he should be owning this offense. We have a YouTube question from Brady. Do you think JMO will take the spotlight from Amon-Ra St. Brown? Very concerned as an owner of Amon-Ra in my fantasy leagues. I mean, yeah, that's definitely been a storyline also so far at this point in the season. Obviously, last year, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the number one receivers in the NFL, as well as, I mean, that correlates one of the number one fantasy receivers. And Jamison Williams last year was not a part of the offense. I mean, I went to a Lions game last year. Whenever they throw him the ball, the fans would boo. Like, that's how much he was disliked there because he had so many drops and he just wouldn't make a lot of plays. And then they traded away, or I'm pretty sure he just left, Josh Reynolds leaving in free agency this year. He was kind of their number 2 wide receiver. So that forced Jameson Williams to step up, and he's really embracing that role. I mean, he was, I think, the number 10 or number 12 overall pick when he was drafted. I mean, he was supposed to come out of college and be a stud, and that is, and it took him 3 seasons, but that is finally what we are seeing. He's playing like a first-round pick. He's playing like how the Lions drafted him to play. And I does think that's affecting Amon-Ra St. Brown and his targets and his deep balls and his intermediate passes and his red zone. Like, it's affecting every part of his game. And I do think that could be a little bit of the missing part of the Lions offense. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to take away. It could end up helping them in the long run, having an extra good receiver, but definitely something to be concerned about. Fair concern as a fantasy owner.
For sure. All right, we got 3 games left, so let's fly through these real quick. We have the Chiefs and Falcons. This was a pretty good game. It was back and forth. Chiefs ended up winning this one 22-17. I enjoyed watching parts of this game personally. But I think that the biggest storyline for people in this game, and the thing that people are hanging on to, is it's always about the refs when it comes to the Chiefs. And late in this game, the Falcons put one in the end zone, which would have not put away the game, but it would have put them ahead with about a little over 2 minutes left, I think, maybe close to 3 minutes left in this game. So it would have put them ahead. And the Chiefs defender commits what everyone sees and believes to be pass interference. His back is turned to the ball, which, first off, that is no longer a consideration of pass interference, so please stop bringing that up. But he did get his hands on the Falcons receiver before the ball got there. It's pretty standard pass interference type call, especially if he touches him before he gets there, and so people are in an uproar. And I got to tell you, I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, people are so inconsistent with their outrage about the Chiefs, because you cannot tell me that if the roles were reversed, if the Chiefs needed to score in this position and a Falcons defender commits that type of PI and they throw that flag, you cannot tell me that people would not say, oh, here go the refs again, giving the Chiefs another win. Because it was a soft PI. Was it PI? Sure, I will give you that. But it was a soft PI. And people would say, you can't call that in that situation. That's a game decision. Like, that's a game-changing decision right there. So I hate the inconsistency, because you know that the people would be saying that. But it annoys the heck out of me, and I had to say that. I had to get that on record. I'm sorry for my little rant.
You're definitely right. Now, as much as watching a Chiefs game where they do seem to get more calls, there is no arguing about that, yes. But it is frustrating to watch a situation like that happen. And we saw the exact same play happen during the Bengals Monday night game. In the end zone, the defender made the exact same play on the receiver behind him, kind of hit him a little bit before they threw the flag. And like, I
saw it the minute it happened. I knew that people were going to be.
I was like, wow, that was identical to the exact same play as Sunday night. Oh yeah, that's just the call on Sunday night. Now, yes, he hit him before if you slow it down, he hits him even before. Like, it should have been called, yes, but there were still 4 minutes left, and if there's still 4 minutes, you don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to mount a drive and go score a touchdown? Like, that isn't why the Falcons lost. The Falcons had the ball again. The Falcons had a chance to get a first down, and they got stuffed. 4th and inches, they got stuffed with Bijan. Yes, this helped the Chiefs, but this isn't the sole reason they're winning games. They have a great quarterback, they have a great head coach, and they have a great team. Yes, the refs seem to help them in games sometimes, but that is not the sole reason that they win. They are a great football team. They're the best team in the NFL, and they're most likely going to three-peat, not because of the refs, because they are a good team. It was the same exact thing when Tom Brady and the Patriots were dominant. They win games, and people get mad at the refs. Oh, they only win because of the refs. They seem to get more calls, yes, but they're going to win regardless. Yes.
Yeah. All right, that's enough of that game. Enough about the refs. The next game we have here, we don't need to talk about this one too much. The Bills absolutely dominate the Jaguars 47-10. The Jaguars are not a good team, and that's really been the takeaway of the last 2 weeks for me, at least, especially considering how the Browns have played in all games not playing the Jaguars. So the Jaguars playing terribly. Trevor Lawrence is, as if you're on the football meme side of the online, you will know that Trevor Lawrence is just Daniel Jones with better hair product. And I feel like that is the most accurate assessment of Trevor Lawrence.
Because he's a bank robber too. He just stole a lot of money this offseason.
He did. And obviously the Bills dropped 47 on their head with no digs. So not worried about that.
The Bills look good. Last thing we'll say about this one. The last 2 weeks, the Bills game has been over at halftime. Last week against Miami and now this week. The Bills are a very good team, and they have a good game next week, I believe, against Baltimore. So should be good.
Look forward to the Ravens blowing that one in the last second. All right, and then the last game we have here is the football team and the Bengals. The football team ended up winning this one.
They have not been the football team in like
38 to 33. Jaden Daniels, absolute dog. Did not see this coming whatsoever from the rookie quarterback, but he had, I believe, a 91% completion rate. That is insane. Like, take that against any team anywhere. 91% is ridiculous. Bengals unfortunately lose this game in an absolute thriller. This is the first game in, I believe it was 84 years
in like NFL history. Yeah.
Like so this is the first game in ever 84 years that there were no turnovers and no punts. The only turnovers that happened in this game was a missed field goal. There's a turnover on downs.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane.
Well, Jaden Daniels obviously led that for the Commanders. The same exact thing happened last week. They didn't turn the Commanders against the Giants did not have any turnovers or any punts. It was all field goals last week, yes, but it was all scoring drives. And obviously this week, a lot of field goals and a lot of touchdowns. So in 3 weeks into his NFL career, he's already done that twice. In their entire NFL careers of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, I forget. It's 4. Hold on. I have it on my phone. Let me find it.
While Caden's finding that,
I saw this and I was like, I need to mention this on the podcast.
So while Caden's finding that, Debbie pulled this up for us. Daniels had a 91.3% completion percentage, which is the highest by a rookie quarterback in a single game in NFL history and the highest in a single game in franchise history with a minimum of 20 attempts. Like I said, the first game in 84 years where there were 0 turnovers and 0 punts. So that is absolutely crazy. Caden, have you found the statistics here?
Yeah, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, and Peyton Manning combined have only done it twice in their careers. And in 3 games into his NFL career, Jaden Daniels has had done it as many times. Incredible start to the career by Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And the Bengals are struggling.
They are. Yes. Quick comment here by Harold Mansfield. Are you ready to crown the Bills and admit that you downplayed Josh Allen's talent? Not yet.
I don't know what that's talking about. No, well, hold on. I don't think that we were downplaying Josh Allen ever. We put him in the
elite category, not the superstar.
Put him in the elite
category.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point in the season he should be considered a superstar at this point. But I think we had a debate for a superstar. I think Harold, who was on the pod with us, had said to keep him in elite. if I remember correctly.
Weird. But yeah, like you said, the Bengals are struggling. They are 0-3 at the moment. I mean, like I keep saying, like I've said for the last 3 weeks, the Bengals do this every year. They lose the first 4, 5, 6 games, and then they take off for the rest of the year. So I'm not concerned yet, but when you fall 0-3 and you're in these close games like this, it does become a little concerning. Now, trust me, I would love nothing better than for the Bengals to not win a game the entire year, but that is very unrealistic. I expect them to turn things around, especially once/if T. Higgins returns and they can really.
He played on Sunday, or he played on Monday.
Yeah, but he was very not as active as I would have expected him to be. All right, so that does it for our recap for the week. We will now quickly fly through our picks.
And we actually haven't made these until right now. We're making these.
We're picking them as we go. All right, Caden, let's fly through this. Cowboys, Giants, who you got?
I got the Cowboys.
I got the Cowboys too. I feel like there's no way that I can't pick the Cowboys here. And why can't I pick? All right, fine. I'll pick these in a second. All right.
Hold on. I'll just wait.
Yeah. Then we got Falcons and Saints.
This one's really hard. I really don't know who I'm going to pick in this one. Who is it? Where is it at? It's at Atlanta.
Yes.
I'm going to pick the Falcons.
I'm actually going to go with the Saints on this one. I think that it's hopefully going to be a good game, but the Saints defense.
I think it's going to be a really good game.
I'm excited to tune into this one. All right. Oh, man. Bengals, Panthers. Oh, wait. No, I guess not. We got. Yeah, I got Bengals Panthers next, so we'll go with that.
This is going to be a good game too. Andy Dalton playing the Bengals after how the Panthers looked last week. I would feel a lot better, honestly, about this game if the Bengals had won on Monday. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to let them go to 0-4. Like, that just scares me. Joe Burrow facing 0-4. I don't like it. I think the Bengals are going to win. I think that they're good enough to just will their team to a win. They will not. Joe Burrow will not let them drop to 0-4. But I do think it'll be a really good game.
I'm going to go with the storyline on this one, and I'm going to go with the Panthers. I really am.
I hope so.
I'm going with the storyline. I'm picking the Panthers. I want it to happen, so we're going to try for it. All right, Rams, Bears. Not a question for me here.
I'm picking the Rams.
Same. Vikings, Packers.
Should be a good one as well. Vikings have looked really good. I think it's a big question. If Jordan Love plays versus if Malik Willis is playing, I'm still going to go with the Vikings because their defense is so good right now and they're schematically. I think if Malik Willis plays, they can confuse him very well. And even if Jordan Love plays, he might not be 100% coming off of his leg. So I'm going Vikings.
Yeah. I think what you said is exactly correct. And Jordan Love has not played enough games, in my opinion, for him to really recognize the kinds of schemes that the Vikings are going to be throwing at him. So I'm going to go Vikings here. All right. This one's easy for me too. Jacksonville and Texans.
Texans.
Yeah, I got Texans here. All right. Then we got the Colts and Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go Steelers.
I am too. The Steelers defense is going to absolutely dismantle Anthony Richardson, and he is going to die.
Yeah.
Then we got Broncos and Jets.
Jets.
I got Jets too. I think that the Broncos was a fluke this week. Tampa Bay Eagles.
It's gonna be there's gonna be some really good games this week. Ooh, I'm gonna go with the Eagles.
I'm actually gonna go with the Buccaneers here. I think this week was a fluke for the Buccaneers, and they did end up beating the Eagles. Was it last year in the playoffs? So I got the Buccaneers here. All right, Washington and Arizona.
Another good game.
It's gonna be a good game.
Good job, NFL. I'm gonna go with Washington. Actually, this is probably the hardest game for me, honestly.
This is such a hard game. I almost want to go Arizona just because you went Washington, but I really feel like Washington's going to perform really, really well. I'll go Washington. I think that it's going to be a tight one, but I can't bring myself to go with the Cardinals after the way Washington played this week. All right, 49ers and Patriots.
49ers.
Yeah, 49ers for sure. Raiders and Cleveland.
I'm going to go with the Browns. I think that the Raiders just have a lot of dysfunction going on right now in that locker room. I think the Browns can beat them.
I'm going to go with the Browns. I am not that I think the Browns are better, but I think that with the current state of confidence that Gardner Minshew is going to have and the way that the Browns defense is going to attack him, I think he's going to have a rough day against the Browns.
Yeah.
All right. Chiefs and Chargers. I think this is a no-brainer too.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
All right. This is a good game. The Ravens and Bills.
I got the Bills. They look really good, and until proven differently, I'm going to keep going Bills.
Yeah, I go Bills too. We are agreeing on every single one of these games. It's going to be a boring week. And this is not going to help either with the next one. Titans, Dolphins.
Well, this might be like the worst game of the week, honestly. Yikes. I'm actually going to go with the Titans.
Shoot, man. I'm going Titans too. Who are the question is okay, so I'm looking at the percentages here, and the Dolphins only have a 52% of people picking the Dolphins to win this game. So obviously that stems with their quarterback issues. Is like, who are they going to play at quarterback? And do I believe in the Titans? Absolutely not. But
I believe them over Tim Boyle. Yeah.
Unless you're playing the Pro Bowl quarterback of Tyler Huntley. All right. Jeremiah Hirschberger says Commanders versus Cardinals. Easy pick. He is obviously the only Cardinals fan in the world. All right. Then the last game that we have here is the Lions and Seahawks. Who do you have for this one?
I got the Lions. I think we're going to see what the Seahawks are really made of on Monday night, and I think the Lions will get them pretty easily.
I completely agree. I'm going with the Lions as well. All right. So that goes for our recap and our picks. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with this week's segment, our Audible. All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's segment, our Audible.
So if you don't know how the Audible works, Austin and I... Crap. Debbie is going to be so mad at me.
We had actually even talked about that before the episode. It was like, oh, we're going to give us a little bit of time. We're going to play the music, and then we're going to go. And Caden immediately throws everything out the window. All right. Just jumps right into it. Caden, what do we got here?
So if you don't know how the Audible works, Austin and I are going to look at an NFL team, and we're going to, I guess, call an audible per se, which is obviously in the NFL, changing the play at the line. So we're going to be changing the way that team is going, the direction that team's going, disagreeing with some of the things that they're doing player-wise or decision-wise, and say what we believe they should be doing. So this week, or I guess this month, Austin and I are looking at the Miami Dolphins. And obviously, their franchise quarterback, Tua, got injured, reconcussed himself last week, and now there's a lot of questions involving Tua. He says he's not going to retire, but regardless of if he is going to retire or not, he's going to be out for a large majority of this season. Now, the Dolphins have a lot of superstars on offense. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, one of the top receivers in the NFL. Jalen Waddle, very good wide receiver 2, Devon Achane, great running back, and a great defense, great coaching staff, great overall team. The only question right now is obviously their quarterback. We talked about it. Skylar Thompson got injured also on Sunday. He's not a great quarterback, though. I don't think you could ride the season with Skylar Thompson at your quarterback regardless of if he had been injured or not on Sunday. But if the Dolphins want to be able to make a run, they need to make a change at quarterback. I think that they have such a good team. Tyreek Hill is not a young player. He doesn't have that many years left in his career. You're going to have to pay some of these guys coming up. Devon Achane, he is a rookie running back, but that's around the time, or he's a second-year running back, I'm sorry, but that's the time that you want to have a good running back under contract, because once you pay that running back, they fall off. You have the perfect team right now to go ahead and win, but you need a quarterback to do that. And there are so many players out there that you can do that with, but I don't think that riding around right now with Tim Boyle and Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley is the move.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think that signing Tyler Huntley is a step in the right direction. Tyler Huntley has been a
Pro Bowl quarterback.
A Pro Bowl quarterback. He's been a decent enough backup in Baltimore for the last couple of years. I mean, Lamar Jackson every season deals with a week or two, sometimes 3 of being out, especially late in the season because he runs so much. And Tyler Huntley has been able to carry them a little bit, but obviously he's not quite good enough. He plays a lot in the playoffs because that's when Lamar Jackson gets hurt the most, is late in the year. So he hasn't played well enough to like win them those kinds of games, but he's been serviceable for a couple of years. So I think that's a step in the right direction. But I think that you're absolutely right. I think that the Dolphins need to be looking at not necessarily replacing Tua, but they need to like have that kind of in the back of their mind where it's like, okay, if Tua retires, like we need to really start thinking about that. But at the very, very minimum, you need to understand that at this point in Tua's career, regardless of if he continues playing or not, let's say he does continue playing, anytime he gets hit in the head from here on out, he will be out for a couple of weeks, just because that's how concussions work. Any little tap to the head, he's going to get a concussion now. So you need to have someone that is able to carry your team. I think that you alluded to it a little earlier, where you have some very nice backups around the NFL where they might not be your top caliber guys, but if you're going to lose Tua at least once a year, you need to have these guys like Russell Wilson. He's currently getting paid by 2 teams right now, may as well make it 3. Guys like Joe, I mean, he's old, but a guy like Joe Flacco in Indianapolis, I mean, he's a very, very serviceable guy. We saw that with the Browns last year. I mean, he's old. He's not a long-term guy here. Maybe even like Cooper Rush. We saw him 2 years ago go absolutely crazy with the Cowboys, and he hasn't really been needed since then. So there are a lot of options for the Dolphins at this point, but I think that you need to, before the trade deadline, you need to make a move on a guy that is able to sustain your team in the long run for at least the rest of this season.
Yeah. A couple more names, potential quarterbacks, names to throw out there. Ryan Tannehill is sitting in free agency right now. No team. That's a very serviceable backup quarterback that you could pick up and sign. You had mentioned Joe Flacco. I very much agree with that. I honestly think that's what they should do, is be making calls for Joe Flacco. Bryce Young, we've talked about him. There's been a lot of talks about him. I don't think the Panthers should trade him, but I think if you're Miami, you should at least give the Panthers a call and see what it would take to bring him in. Because especially if Tua does retire, that is a young quarterback that you can try to fix in the Mike McDaniel scheme, which I think that he could be very fixable in that scheme. And one more player, it's a little bit more out there, but I think it would be a lot of fun. Do you know who I'm going to say?
Fitzmagic.
Oh, well, that would also be very fun. But he has a great job right now on Thursday Night Football. I don't think he's going to leave. No,
this is true.
I know he's a little bit older, but I think they should make a call to Cam Newton.
I knew you were going to say Super Cam. I literally knew you were going to say it.
I think it'd be so fun. And I think with that, the
Cam Newton
team
experiment
around him
is over. He is over. We saw that in New England. He is done.
I don't know, man. There was something where he was spotted in Miami. I don't know. That's definitely the most out there name. But realistically, guys like Russell Wilson, guys like Joe Flacco, Ryan Tannehill,
yeah.
Like call one of those guys. You can't roll the rest of the season with Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle, Tyler Huntley.
Yeah, I completely agree. So obviously our audible for this week is Miami Dolphins. You need to start making calls. You need to make some moves. You cannot waste this opportunity because the team that you have right now is very, very good, and you are squandering the talent and the low amount of money you have invested in this roster. So they need to make a move, and very quickly.
Yep.
All right, so that's going to do it for our episode this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys again next week for a recap of week 4 and our pick'ems for week 5.